of Houston for Coach Willie Fritz. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time, best place to get last-minute tickets for the lowest price. You can go watch Conner Weigman and the Houston Cougars play with Game Time tickets brought to by Game Time. More on that later. I'm stoked. This is big-time news. I want to talk about what comes next because that's a whole other series of things. I want to talk about the fit and the placement and all of the fun there. But first and foremost, we got to talk about Conner Weigman, the newest member of the Houston Cougar football program. Now, Conner is from Cyprus, went to high school at Bridgeland High School, and was electric there. Had almost, over 6,000 passing yards over junior seniors combined. Ran a 4.49. Had offers to go anywhere in the country he wanted. Was a 5-star prospect out of high school. He had offers to really considered Arkansas, Baylor, Texas OU, all the big ones, and chose A&M. It was relatively close to home, right? And for what it's worth, he kept Baylor in the mix for a long time. Sean Bell, Baylor, I don't know. It might have worked. Might have been a great hire. Might have worked. Anyway, he ends up at A&M and does well as he start there. Actually had a really good first few games in 2023, but has just been kind of injured each year. And then this past year, he had slow start coming back off of an injury, gets to, misses a couple games or whatever weeks for an injury, gets replaced by some kid named Marcel Reed, and is obviously looking to go find somewhere to start over. And this kid was projected to go all over the country to all kinds of big programs, all kinds of Big Ten people were being talked about with them. Syracuse is being talked about with them. Louisville, it's a big time NIL programs. And the kid chose to stay home and go to the University of Houston. It's a big, big deal from this program. Willie Fritz and the crew do the darn thing. It's really, really exciting this happened. For what it's worth, this has been kind of in the works for a while. I think Wegman really wanted to come to the University of Houston based on it being the hometown school. I think obviously having Fritz, having Sean Bell, having Slade Nagel in place as the offense coordinator. Nagel's going to run more of the, that's what he did at Tulane. It'll be more of the spread run kind of stuff that opens up some of the, passing yardage because you've got receivers spread out and makes teams pick what they're going to cover. Obviously, Wegman's hyper accurate as a quarterback. His big thing is accuracy. He's a very accurate thrower of the football. His ding on him at A&M might be his arm strength. However, obviously, with the different injuries he's had, including some elbow stuff in the past, some of that could be tagged into recuperating from that. Some of it could be the fact that he's played just 15 collegiate games. So you're getting a guy that, is still obviously growing, but a crazy high potential. A lot of people I see in the chat here. I'm going to pull up a couple comments, but yeah, it's just kind of where I'm at on this. Willie and Nagel can do what they did with Michael Pratt at Tulane, American Athletic Conference Player of the Year, whenever USC in the Cotton Bowl, etc. We are cooking. I actually think part of the reason this works is because of the similarities in skill sets between Michael Pratt at the Tulane level and Conner Weigman at the 5-star level. They do some of the very same things well. Houston's retaining Rashawn Sanford. They're keeping Boogie, right? They're keeping a Pancake Hunter. They're keeping a bunch of guys on offense because they want to play with this guy. And again, this guy chose Houston. Houston's going to reach out to a bunch of people in the transfer portal, especially guys that grew up in and around Houston. Wegman chose the U of H. He chose Houston because it is home. All kinds of comments flying in here. I'm going to try to get some. Juan with 100 and the bullseye. Yes, we got a bullseye. Receivers are happy. We're so back. Eric Beans says, let's go. Willie cooking it up. Hope they get an offensive line. Yeah, me too. Cautiously optimistic. I think that's fair given the injury history, but man, it's hard not to be optimistic right now. Yash points out that they're the same type of quarterbacks. A statement signing, says Yash. I think that's a great way to put this. Willie Fritz, a year into his Houston Cougar tenure, puts the U of H on the map. Again, some people had Conner Weigman as the top quarterback in the transfer portal. On no publication was he ranked lower than third in the transfer portal as far as quarterbacks go. This is an elite commitment for the University of Houston. Now, it's not to say there aren't going to be flaws or whatever like that, but it's just hard to get into any of that tonight, right? This guy is a big time commitment, 6'3-ish, 6'2-ish, depending on which publication you're looking at, around 220 pounds. And again, he could run. He's not the electric athlete that Zion was, or certainly not like a Greg Ward or whatever, but he ran 4.49 in high school before some of the injuries he had in college. And you're seeing, I think, what can happen when you have a staff that's dedicated to finding the right kinds of guys from the city and bringing them back. To this point, the thought of like coming back to Houston has meant like you get an AJ Halsey from New Mexico who like wants to come back to Houston, absolutely wants to put on for the city, absolutely, but is also looking to go from New Mexico to the U of H, right? You get guys that kind of want to transfer up a division, so to speak. Wegman is coming to Houston to bring Houston up a division because he's got that kind of talent in his backpack. This is a fun time to be a Houston Cougar. It's the comments are flying in here. Willie is a closer, says Juan. Way to go, Willie. I saw Mizzou fans throwing a fit, says Yash, that they did not land him. T.I., all this is happening while I get back home from work. That's actually a fun thought. In the comment section, if you're live with us, if you're not, you should have hit the bell so you knew when we were going live. But if you're live with us, tell us where you were when you got the tweet, the text, the whatever. Nathan says hi. Hey, Nathan, how we doing? All kinds of stuff flying in here. So, again, this is a quarterback that is very, very accurate. The lone dings on him have been big picture, long-term health because he gets, an injury. It seems like every year thus far. He's played 15 games across 3 years of college. He's got 2 years left. And then honestly, like the deep ball kind of stuff, but that kind of ties into the injury stuff as well as I see it. In his 3 years at Texas A&M, he is an over 60% completions guy. Again, in the 4 games he played in 2023 before getting a season-ending injury, he had thrown 8 touchdowns and 2 picks. And I think that's the kind of efficiency you're looking for in a Slade Nagel offense anyway. You get Rashawn Sanford and Fat Burnett involved in the run game, and suddenly you're cooking with gas, right? This is a great move for that. I know you lose defensive coordinator and all that kind of stuff, but Willie Fritz is a defensive coach. He's now got his coordinator. He's now got his quarterback. It's time to go to work. This team is going to make a gigantic turnaround in the very near future. Now, I want to talk about the idea of setting this up and kind of what all we've got working together here in a second. I also want to talk about like how we now that it's all happened, how we got here. I want to talk some about what could be coming next, all very, very soon. I want to get to more comments as well, so keep those things flying in. Love to interact with everyone live. But today's show is also brought to you by Game Time, and I could not go further without telling you about the great deals you can get at Game Time. You can get tickets to go watch the Houston Cougars and Conner Weigman play football as soon as those things are out. They got a great curation device. Make sure you're getting the best deal available using AI. I'll tell you the best value for tickets to concerts, comedy shows, theater, sports, whatever, all on Game Time. I like the lowest price guarantee. I'm a little more cautious, but if you can find the same section and row for cheaper somewhere else, Game Time can credit you back 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And it is also Conner Weigman time. Conner Weigman, 5-star quarterback, commits to the University of Houston out of the transfer portal tonight. Comments flying in this live edition of Locked On Cougs. I'm your host, Parker Rainsworth. Juan says Houston, the college football playoff. Why not us? Why not us? Casey, game changer immediately for our Cougs if he stays healthy and can bring in some more offensive weapons via transfer. Watch out. Nathan Campbell asked what kind of offense Was Houston going to run? So Nagel is the kind of guy, and this actually translates me into the setup here. Nagel's the kind of guy that wants to spread the ball out. If you look what he did at Tulane, Michael Pratt and Tajay Spears, he wants to spread the defense out and basically say we're attacking the space wherever that may be. If you're going to go fan out with the receivers, we'll run the ball with a guy like Tajay. If you want to condense things, we're going to flip it out there and guys in space, guys like Boogie Johnson, etc. Right? You now have a quarterback that can effectively do all of those things. And so this momentum's built up for a little over a week now with him coming to Houston since he entered the transfer portal, since Slade Nagel was rumored to be getting the job, etc. And I have to say that it feels like a real, in a very serious kind of way, that Houston is working their like retention thing. You've seen Houston on social media very publicly being excited about who is staying. It feels like a lot of the offensive guys staying are guys that are going to directly benefit from playing with Conner Weigman. Like Demetrius Pancake Hunter played with Conner Weigman in the All-American game. This is not an accident, right, that he was excited to come back and recommit himself to the Cougs. Boogie Johnson, a wideout that's going to feast, and the kind of things that both Weigman and Nagel's offenses want to put together. Him being excited to come back is not an accident. Rashawn Sanford, undersized running back with an electric speed and a great way to shift gears. Think about what Tajay Spears did at Tulane with Michael Pratt and Slade Nagel. Now, Rashawn Sanford, same kind of back with Slade Nagel and Conner Weigman. I mean, these things all go together. And I'm telling you right now, the offensive players have been excited about this for a long time. This is a long time coming. And it feels very, very much like there have been whispers about this for a hot minute. As they went on, obviously the official opening of the transfer portal was Monday. So guys could say they were entering anytime they wanted to in the last several months, honestly. And once they, say that, the schools obviously, they kind of part ways or whatever. And for what it's worth, I think A&M and Conner Weigman feel very amicable. For everything I've seen, I don't think there's any, ill will. It doesn't look like online. Now, had he gone to an SEC school or something, maybe, and he had that option. But Wegman put his name in the portal, but officially was not able to talk to the higher ups, the real deal people, the coaching staff at Houston, until he was formally in it at midnight Eastern going into Monday. As a local resident, he was already on campus this week touring, talked with a lot of players, interacted with a lot of players. Guys got excited. Guys got to saying like, hey, man, I can't wait to have you on campus. Like playing, like those kinds of things were building already. And, bluntly, it felt like some of those relationships just from working out around Houston, from having each other's DMs, from being in the same greater area. I mean, College Station ain't that far away. These guys all knew each other and all knew this would work. I'm really, really excited it worked because, frankly, the excitement was building up kind of behind the scenes so much that had it not worked, I don't know what they would have done. They had all kinds of great other quarterback options. I think Chandler Morris is going to be a great quarterback somewhere. The Preston Stone kid that just been in the transfer portal from SMU seems like a stand-up guy. I get all of those things. I just also would point out that none of those guys were Conner Weigman out of high school. Now, as far as more about like the setup of this, the setup you got going on in the quarterback room is fantastic. I mean, I don't think you can imagine a better quarterback room for the Big 12 Houston Cougars, right? You have Conner Weigman, the starter, right? I mean, I don't think we have to argue and bicker about that. Conner Weigman comes in and starts right away. And is slotted to do so later on and off the field in every way. If you ask an Aggie, if you know an Aggie, you're from Texas, you know an Aggie. Ask him about it. That's all anyone says about him, right? Zion Chris, I'd imagine, is both a package quarterback, meaning there's like a Zion Chris package that does some of the stuff he does well because you don't want to waste that talent at all. I imagine they also find ways to get his speed on the field in other kinds of formations and setups. And then, frankly, you also need to have a backup quarterback. You do. He's, Conner Weigman is a guy that has had injuries in the past. You might need a Zion Chris game or two here or there. No one wants it to happen, knock on wood, but you got a guy that started about half a season in the Big 12 under your belt. That's a pretty solid backup option, isn't it? Right? I mean, that's all right. Then Austin Carlisle. Enter stage right. Austin Carlisle shows up as a guy that gets a chance to redshirt, a chance to learn, a chance to develop his body, a chance to adjust to Slade Nagel's system, a chance to grow, all while Houston continues to win football games. You don't have to worry about those kinds of things. Get him a redshirt year and a freshman year, and then when Conner Weigman is out of eligibility, I mean, Conner Weigman could go pro if he has a good enough year next year. I'm not saying he couldn't, right? But if Conner Weigman maxed out his eligibility, spent 2 years, you would theoretically have at least 3 years left of Austin Carlisle. I mean, come on now. That's perfect. Like that's great. He gets 2 years to work out, work, learn, get ready, etc. Get him some spots here and there. And again, next year, I guess Carlisle's redshirt freshman year, Wegman's final and 5th year, you theoretically have him as the backup for any of those kind of dings and dunks kind of things that happen along the way. This is domino setting each other up. And Juan's following my lead here. Willie is setting the system up now. Seems like he's building a team to win the Big 12 next year. That's my third segment. We'll sit here, but he is setting up the system with quarterbacks coming one after the other because Austin Carlisle shows up, and then this kid Keyshawn Henderson comes up. And I'm telling you right now, as a guy that loved Greg Ward as a true dual threat quarterback, we're going to love Keyshawn Henderson. Right, Carlisle's really fast. I mean, wicked track fast, right? But like this thing is lining up where you're looking at what could be a decade of elite quarterback play. Now, I've been on record thinking with Keyshawn that he'll follow what I've been calling, not because the A&M theme with the night with Wegman, but that Keyshawn could do the Ryan Tannehill path, where he's eventually an NFL quarterback, but he starts off his freshman year, sophomore year playing receiver, because you've got veteran guys at the quarterback spot, and then he transitions from being your receiver and backup quarterback into a starting quarterback role. Ryan Tannehill did and went pro. I think Keyshawn can do it as well. And man, if that works out, guys, you're going 5-star, best quarterback in the city, best athlete in the state, back to back to back. What a like! Can you actually realistically draw that up any better? I don't think you can. I don't think there's if you get all three and they all three work out like they're supposed to, as far as like the reaching the ceiling, the maximum potential of it all, I don't think there's a better setup in the country. Tell me I'm wrong, right? Five-star quarterback in Wegman, best quarterback in your recruiting area, that is the city of Houston, best athlete in the state, and the state's Texas. We're not talking about Wyoming. No, little shade to Wyoming. It's not, right? Like this is a big, big deal. And Willie Fritz, the hire they made a year ago, that people worried about this, worried about that, coaching the Big 12, etc. I mean, he just got one of the ones. I see people talking about potential other transfers in the chat as well. I see your comments. I know there's one we all wish would come back. I want to talk more about what's next in the immediate future, this roster, and how Conner Weigman impacts that. And second, today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, and I can't get out of here without telling you about that because FanDuel has this great deal right now to help you tackle the NFL action. You put down $5. If that bet hits, you get $150 back in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app has everything you need to place live bets all in one place. If you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats. If you live play-by-play and so much more on the same page that you place your bets, get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's FanDuel.com. Never was a hunch, make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The same NFL that Conner Weigman, the newest Houston Cougar, may very realistically be heading to. Conner Weigman, if you're just now getting here, Conner Weigman, Houston Cougar, that's a real thing. He's a 5-star quarterback, leaving Texas A&M in the transfer portal for your University of Houston Cougars. This is awesome. This is a big deal. This is big time news, right? So what I like about this and what I want to talk about in this segment, because I got guys talking about a lot of things here in the chat, and I appreciate all the commentary. I love interacting with people live. I don't get a chance to go live all that often. It's fun when stuff happens like this. It kind of demands it. But people talking about future transfers. And so people, I guess, are first see several comments about our favorite Houston Cougar transferring out, and that is Joseph Manjack. I think a lot of people were shocked to see Joseph Manjack decide he's going to spend his senior year elsewhere. He in the transfer portal this week. I don't know Joseph personally, so I should preface this by saying that, and I would be happy to be wrong on this. I'd imagine Joseph Manjack is wearing a different uniform next year, even with this news. And I say that because based on who else would have known this, it'd be hard for me to imagine that Joseph was not involved or did not have any connection to knowing this was a very real possibility or about to happen when he entered the portal. I think the deal for Manjack, as I said earlier this week, is he's got a year to prove he's a pro, and I think he is, but he's got a year to prove it. And so do you go to a system that shows you off? North Carolina just hired Bill Belichick. Do you go play for a pro? Honestly, what? I don't have any insider stuff there, but if you were asking me what pro football coach I've watched in the last 10 years that could use Joseph Manjack, I would have thought of Bill Belichick. Did you go play for him? Right? Where do those things line up? And I don't know how you feel about this personally. I'm not one to ever be upset about that if a kid goes finds a good situation for themselves, as long as they don't. I mean, if they're positive at the University of Houston, and Joseph has always been, why would I wish any ill will on a former Coug? I don't wish them ill when they go to the NFL. Why do I wish them ill if they go play somewhere else? Right? So happy for him. Obviously, I'd be happy to have him back, but I just don't. I don't think it's happening, and I just don't. Okay. Now, as far as other guys, I think a lot of people are looking, maybe because the story goes that Cam Dewberry, big, gigantic interior offensive lineman, 6'4", 325 kind of guy from Atascocita. He and Wegman were on campus together this week when they toured. I will say that based on Twitter, it looks like Dewberry is visiting Missouri this week as well. But they both were on the same All-American team, that Pancake Hunter was on. Dewberry was on that, and then went to A&M with Conner Weigman and the transfer portal about the same time as Conner Weigman. And people are kind of seeing them and can he work this as a package deal, right? Can they bring in offensive linemen? Can they bring in a buddy of his that's an offensive lineman? Cam Dewberry's played a lot of football. He's also about to be a junior next year. And so, what does that look like? And I would have to say that at least with Cam Dewberry, it does look like to me that is for what it's worth, an offensive lineman they have a real shot at, because he's not only an Aggie that played with Wegman, but he's also a local kid in the Atascocita connection, right? And so if you're going to get any of them, I'd imagine Dewberry has a pretty good shot. Another kid that literally entered the portal today, another interior offensive lineman, 6'3", 310 pounds, from Dobie High School, is Jason Brooks. He goes to went to Oklahoma State. He's in the transfer portal. Do you get him to come back home and play with Conner Weigman under Slade Nagel, under Willie Fritz, and make a real shot at this Big 12 kind of a thing? There's all kinds of guys out there. I'd imagine Dewberry, the big guy from A&M, looks like it would happen. Feels like he and Conner Weigman have kind of been together this whole time, and those relationships can be very, very real. As far as other talent in the portal goes, there's a bunch of guys that are, I think, getting linked to Houston now from either being Willie Fritz's background or, frankly, other former Aggies. You're looking at guys like Jaden Platt, who's a tight end that's in the transfer portal from A&M. I'd imagine you actually see Houston go after the Ball State tight end. I can't pronounce his last name right now. But he entered, and I guess Martin Marquand tweeted out. Martin was on the staff under Coach Dana Holgerson. Martin tweeted out that they really wanted him a year ago, and he's back in the transfer portal. I wonder if that's the kind of thing that you could pull him. And hey, now that we've got this 5-star quarterback, do you want to come play with this? Right, there's a whole different kind of thing. I think what you're looking at, though, is that offensive linemen want to be shown off, right? Offensive linemen know that to go pro, they need good tape, right? It's not as simple as just being a giant. You got Pancake Hunter. He was a highly touted recruit as a center. And while centers have trouble showing off on tape individually, that's at least one piece, right? you frankly graduated a lot of talent on the offensive line. And so I'm not saying that you wouldn't have to replace it anyway, but truthfully, you also want a better offensive line, right? And so you're in the portal looking for improving talent at each of those spots. And guys now know when they come to Houston, the guy slinging it behind them is not the kind of guy that's going to pat the ball too long behind them, right? He's not the kind of guy that's going to be throwing picks and making me go make a tackle in space as an offensive lineman. He's not that kind of quarterback. And so offensive linemen are looking potentially to follow suit as well. Now, there are a bunch of people being linked to the University of Houston. As I mentioned, I would imagine if I were a betting man, you're going to know more about this like in the next couple of days. But what I can tell you is happening. I'm not going to tell too much about sources. I'm not a reveal sources kind of guy. People are now reaching out to Houston to play with Conner Weigman. That's the impact of this signing. Is it's not necessarily everyone in America. It's not necessarily every single person on the On3 top 50 board or whatever, but people now want to come play in the city of Houston, in the Big 12, under Fritz, under Nagel, and drumroll with Conner Weigman. You got to pay attention to some of these names. Brad Spence entered the portal this afternoon. He's a linebacker from Arkansas. The big Baylor kid, I think it's Alvin Eboselli. He's like 6'7". He's a giant. He has Houston on his short list. He's visiting soon, I believe. He's from Baylor, right? Think about Baylor, Sean Bell connections, right? The tight end on my list here was Tanner Kaziel. Tanner Kaziel. Anyway, the Ball State kid, right? I found his name. Make sure I got I'm not pronouncing right there. You got a lot of different options across the board. And frankly, you pulled in an SEC quarterback. If I'm an SEC wideout offensive lineman, even a defensive player that wants to have offensive support, I'm looking at Houston now because of Wegman. And I'm telling you, kids are reaching out because of that, right? Recruiting in the transfer portal just got a whole heck of a lot easier for Houston and Willie Fritz. And man, oh man, what a great time to be a Cougar. You got the number one recruiting class in college basketball right now as well. That came out this week. You got this. You got a five-star quarterback. You got a five-star quarterback. Like things just turn around so quickly in college sports, right? Think about where you were 14 months ago. Like think about where this program was 14 months ago. I had people commenting on videos. I'm not going to throw their names out there about like thinking that joining the Big 12 was a bad idea 14 months ago because of where the program was. Look how fast this goes. Look how fast things change. New coach, new coordinators, new quarterback, new offense. Let's hit the ground rolling. Houston Cougars, fall of 2025. It's going to be a movie. And we're going to be talking about the different characters and stars in that movie very, very soon as more guys start to roll in. They could happen tonight for all I know. For what it's worth, was kind of under the impression that if Wegman was going to happen in the next 24 hours, it was going to happen tomorrow morning. I think the momentum was building and it just had to pop out tonight. Be paying attention to guys like Cam Dewberry and guys like Jason Brown, those guys that are out there. It's going to be a fun time. Be posting more throughout the week as things happen. Follow me on social media at Painsworth512, on Instagram at Painsworth Sports. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live, so we can join next time as well. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team, which features Conner Weigman every single day. Go Coogs.